men are not being brought
Fragile.
up to be evolved the same way as the women are evolving. I think that's the biggest problem in our society today. This is carrying the same baggage that the previous generation was carrying to a large extent. So they have, in a household with one boy and three girls, or let's say two boys and three girls, if the family can only afford education for two children, who do you think they're going to send to school?
The boys.
The boys. It's not the why, it's the how do I manage? Vasudevan, so I was like 200 and something in the list, and which means my name was going to get called 2 hours later, and I was in third stage labor already, like in labor pains, and the provost is standing there and thinking that, oh my goodness, this lady will not laugh. So she said, I'm changing the order, you're going fast, you're getting your degree and you're heading straight to the hospital, my dear. जब तक वो नहीं खत्म होगी, जिंदगी भी बीत जाए, तो साथ जीवन वाला है. It is, I hate that word and it should be removed from the dictionary. You realize that this happens to the woman. Woman's life changes completely when there's marriage. Man's life doesn't change. If it does, it's only in the positive side. Company, you have 100 bosses, right? And you are the lowest, you are the junior most associate who has to take work from everybody in the form of expectations that you have to do
And prove.
Hi Swati, welcome to Sipping Thoughts. So excited to have you here. And I'm going to get right into it because बहुत सारे सवाल हैं. Now you've been in this education and you've been, what, millions of kids are learning now from Khan Academy, both girls and boys, all age groups. It's wonderful to see. But ये question जो दिमाग में हरदम आता है, are we seeing now girls and boys, exams में तो दिख रहा है, yes, girls are outpacing boys. We see them acing CBSE and all of this. But what about in these real life skills? This statistics by UN is startling that even now, at the age of 15, girls are already 30% less likely to see themselves as leaders. You know, we see how early does this conversation start? And how early do girls start saying, I'm not good at math? Or is this conversation changing?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here and to talk about some of my favorite topics. And education is a favorite, one of my favorite topics, as one can imagine, because that's what I chose to do for a living as well and to make a difference. So, there are so many things that come into play here, Sukirti. Yes, at the outset, one can say that girls are getting educated, and education is really where it starts, right? That's the foundation of building that equity. And I'm not talking about equality, I'm talking about equity between genders, and not just girls and boys, but all genders, right? But that's not solving.
What's the difference between equity and equality? Thoda explain kar do isko.
Acha. So equality assumes that everybody has equal opportunity. Equity
creates the level field.
Yeah, it creates a level field, right? So you and I, one person comes from privileged background and has different sets of opportunities, and I don't, then we are not equitable. So to be equitable, I have to be given a handicap to bring us to that equitable level.
Okay.
Right? So that's kind of the difference between equity and equality. Yeah, not at all. Mm-hmm. So I think, yes, education is where it starts, and education is coming into the girls' lives in our country. But country is a large population, and a majority of them still live in the rural areas. So yes, in the urban areas, girls are getting educated, but in the rural areas, we're still eons behind, right? These girls are still not being enrolled in the numbers that they should be. They're not getting the same opportunities to be educated. In a household with one boy and three girls, or let's say two boys and three girls, if the family can only afford education for two children, who do you think they're going to send to school?
The boys.
The boys, right? So that's still happening. So in the rural households, it's still a problem. Majority of the girls, we are finding it hard to keep them in the school. We're finding it hard to enroll them. And once enrolled, we're finding it hard to keep them in school. There's a huge dropout rate for girls. So I think there is still an issue, I would say. But let's flip the coin a little bit, and back to your point, let's try and understand what's happening in the urban areas, because in some ways, it's a mirror to what might happen in the rural areas a few decades from now, right? So fast forward to their future, you can look at the urban areas. In the urban areas also, what you mentioned is still an issue. Even though the girls are getting educated, are they really making it to the leadership level in the
Is the
work
mindset also
is the
changing?
mindset changing? Are we seeing that difference in the workforce, in the leadership levels, in the boardrooms? The statistics are abysmal, as we talked about earlier. The girls are not making it to that level for a variety of reasons. Number one, the kind of fields they're choosing and what probability those fields have to help them get to the leadership level. STEM, let's take an example. The dropout rate in STEM is so high for the girls, right? Again, there are multiple reasons for that. Mindset, लड़की क्या करेगी STEM पढ़ के, उसको तो home science करा दीजिए, right? There's people are discouraging you from taking STEM. Plus, you grow up with this mindset of it's a cultural thing. Nobody talks about it. It's implicit. Girls can't do math.
Yes.
Right?
But
So,
this is the
Swati,
biggest bias.
Yeah.
We have been hearing this for donkey years,
Yeah,
like 30
yeah,
years, 40
yeah.
years back, the same thing.
Yeah.
There's no toilets, there's no safety, there is a preference on boys over girls. Anything changed?
It is changing, and I'm an eternal optimist, and I can see the change on the ground.
So, what are the few changes that
I'll give you an example. So, we use Khan Academy to bring access to world-class quality education to the students in the government schools, which comprises girls and boys. But we realized because of the infrastructure and digital infrastructure access issues and inadequacy of it in the classrooms, we had to make it a classroom plus at-home model. But here is what we found, that at homes, even though there's 85% penetration of smartphones in families, the boys, there's one smartphone per family. The father usually walks away with it because, again, there's inequity in the household at that level where the mother doesn't have access. The father is the one who takes it to his work and comes back in the evening. So smartphone access is only available in the evening. And even at that time, because the timing is of availability is limited, the boy gets access to the smartphone to practice on Khan Academy. So we had to start this whole campaign to make the parents aware of the importance of giving access to smartphone to the girls as well, so that they can also learn. And it's happening. The girls are learning. I'll give you a small example. There are 80,000 girls across these 746 Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalaya, which are residential schools. It's a government school in UP. We are actually working in KGBVs in other states as well. But I'm going to give you the UP example. 80,000 girls. We've been working there for 4 years. Today, 76,000 of these girls are using Khan Academy to learn maths in Hindi. Right?
Because language was a barrier.
Because language was a barrier. And just having access to world-class quality content was a barrier. Teachers' quality is also not there, right? And teachers' capacity is not there. Teachers' availability is not there because STEM has not been a field of choice. There aren't many women STEM teachers. And in these girls' schools, you're going to put women teachers. So where are you going to find so many STEM women teachers? So one thing leads to another. So having this access to EdTech is kind of leveling that and working around that issue. It's allowing these girls to have access where the teachers may not be there. So that's kind of one example. And many of these girls are gaining math skills, and they used to hate math period. Right now they are loving doing math. They're saying बड़ा मजा आता है, हमें बहुत interesting लगता है. पता नहीं पहले क्यों कहते थे कि maths मुश्किल है. पहले हमें math से डर लगता था, math से भी डर नहीं लगता है. और हमें interesting लगता है math, तो बड़ा अच्छा subject है. Many of them now want to take maths after 10th grade. Some of them want to be math teachers. Right? So to me, that's a movement that's happening. And I'm just giving you one example. But you'll start to see the same thing happening in the corporate world. It's very small, but there is a change, and it's a positive change. There are women now being seen in the leadership in manufacturing sector as well. You're seeing women in the boardrooms as well, partly because of the policy, which, yes, of course, that's there. But even if the policy wasn't there, there is that inroads that women are making to the boardrooms as well. Is it adequate? No, but we have a long road to traverse. So it will take some time.
Statistics say it's only 2%.
Yeah, it is 2%. Yeah.
So we are far
better than zero.
Yeah,
better
true.
than zero. Right. So again, it's I like to see the glass half full. I think we are heading in the right direction. Yes, the numbers are very small, but we can choose to focus on that, or we can choose to focus on the direction it's moving in.
So Swati, this is talking about a lot of hard skills and ed tech. All this technology really helps there. Chai maths or science so. But let's talk about the soft skills. When we see stats like this, that women can't still believe that they can be leaders. How do we affect that change?
Yeah. See, that cannot be affected by just one organization here and there, whether it's a for-profit entity or not-for-profit entity. This is something which will require work in a 360-degree manner. Policy, cultural aspects, across sectors, and over time. So I think you have both those three different dimensions that need to come together. I'll give you a small example. Even if we decide today that we are going to treat our girl child and male child similarly, and we'll do our best possible to bring them up in a similar manner, I can bet there will still be a difference in the mindsets of the boy and the girl, because they learn more by watching. And what they're watching is what the previous generation is doing in the household,
Absolutely.
right? So if the father is still the one who is constantly out working and not as involved in the household, and the mother is the one taking care of certain other types of aspects of life, the girl will automatically assume those are the things that a woman is supposed to take care of. And going out and working and bringing money on the table, that's what the man is supposed to do. And the boy is watching that. And in some ways, it's also leading to that. We have to get to that whole toxic expectations that these boys also have. Poor kids, they grow up with this pressure, with heavy weight and pressure of being the provider and the protector of the family. And that becomes their identity, right? And if over time they find, which they are finding now, that they are no longer the sole provider. The woman is equal and she's providing too. It really shakes them up that, okay, then what is my identity? What is my value? Who am I? And I think that identity crisis is what men are also going through. So I feel bad for them as well.
So are the women also taking extra load of that to not, for men not to feel like that? Because they are normally the nurturers, relationship keeper, homemakers.
Yeah.
So sometimes when they feel that because of this action, the man of the family will have a low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Do they care for that?
They do, and it's unfortunate that because I see around me a lot of women, they are very conscious. I'll give you very small examples from day-to-day life, and I bet if you were to look around, you'll see that your friends do this. A man will come home and talk about his work, or people know what their accomplishments are. Everybody in the family knows exactly what role he has, where he works, what he does. Very often, they will not know that about the woman. In my household, I don't think the families, both sides, really knew what I did, what my accomplishments were. And it's not for their fault, no fault of theirs. It's because I didn't talk about it.
We want to dumb it down.
You want to dumb it down. You never want to talk about your accomplishments. You never want to talk about what you actually do and what you are achieving outside the house, because you're always worried. You're always worried about that whole. I don't want to come across as this. Yeah, you always want to keep that little kind of a subtle presence. You don't want to be the center of attraction in the household. You want to, stay in the background, because you are worried about the cultural aspects of what that could mean for the men, because men are not being brought up to be evolved the same way as the women are evolving. I think that's the biggest problem in our society today. Women have evolved, and they're evolving and growing at a very, very rapid pace.
AI almost.
Yeah, because they're getting education and they're getting exposure as well.
So
they're getting experiences. Yeah. But the men, they're still carrying the same baggage that the previous generation was carrying to a large extent. So they haven't evolved. So there's this whole differentiation happening, and there's a gap being built up. Previous generation, that was okay, because women just kind of put up with things, right? The next generation, women don't want to put up with it from the get-go. So there's clarity. They don't get into things and relationships where they know this could be a problem. I think our generation is getting hit the most. So I call ourselves as not only the sandwich generation for other reasons of caregiving, but even from this expectations standpoint, we really have it hard. When we got into relationships, we were taught we were carrying the baggage from the previous generation. But we have evolved, right? Both men and women have evolved, but at very different paces. And so now we are at this point. Our generation is at this point where there's a differentiation in the evolution, and it's causing a lot of trouble in the society.
So they say,
it's very interesting to watch what's going to happen. Yeah. It's like an epidemic. Yeah,
you are raising women as empowered women, but you are not raising men to handle empowered women.
Exactly.
It's a very common
And
Very
it's-
well said.
No,
Very
and I
well
think it's
said.
funny. It's because it's the same women that are raising the boys and the girls, but maybe it's been put in our head so much कि लड़कियों पे, so our attention has been focused on
Yeah.
those issues.
Yeah.
And I think now we also need to bring the attention back to raise empowered boys so that we put that focus there also.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's not up to us alone to
So
raise
there's a-
that, right? Because they're watching the previous generation. So which is why I said that it's going to take a generation for that effect to happen. It is happening. I see the 30-year-olds and couples who are in their 20s. I see a difference. I see where they are more of equal partners in the household. The woman is not the one carrying the double or triple workload of life. There are multiple workloads in life. Going and making money is just one workload. There is a workload of managing the household, nurturing kids, being the primary caregiver to the elderly and children in the family and your partner and extended family. Those are that's triple workload, right? And the women are carrying it, at least in our generation and the previous generation. But I think the new generation, the next generation, the people who are in their 30s, I do see a difference. At least in the urban areas, I see a difference. In the rural areas, still not so, but because they are decades behind. But I think in another century, I hate to say it, century, I think we will get there. It will take that long because of the generational effect. It takes a generation to bring about such social and cultural changes. They don't happen overnight. These are behavioral changes that need to happen.
So at least we are sowing the seeds. So maybe we will not
Yeah.
be seeing the results in our lifetime, but
Yeah.
we are sowing the seed.
Yeah. But what are you ladies seeing? I mean, you're talking to so many women and probably hearing about these kind of challenges that women face, and girl child and male child, and what can be done to bring them up in a similar fashion, to change mindsets. What are you hearing from other women?
So
Or men, I guess.
I personally, like my observation is that we do not pay focus on this because it is so systematically happening around us that we don't stop and pay attention to bring the change. It's whatever is larger scale changes are happening, we are kind of going with it, but we don't stop and see that should I shift this narration, whether elders are speaking around you or there is a family setup, or we don't consciously tell girls that you have to be financially independent, you have to have a career. We don't see this around. Okay, when you get married, where do you get married? Then what will you be able to do it? But yes, do something in life. So that is one very standard pattern I'm seeing.
Yeah, and I think some of it is natural because it's not just one family affecting that woman's future, right? It's not just the family she's growing up in. It's the family she goes to,
the partner she chooses.
Right? And in some ways, she's an immigrant citizen. She's having to leave her family, which she shouldn't have to do. She should just keep the current family and acquire another family. At least there is some balance in case the second family is coming with different set of mindsets. At least there'll be some balance there. But that's not what's happening in our culture, right? The woman leaves her family, goes to the second family, and there's an expectation that now she will imbibe our values and our systems and follow our way of living. And then she has to contend with this whole another set of philosophies and values that she has to live by, which may or may not be as evolved as the one she came from.
Immediately after marriage, the 3-4 years break is expected or assumed that she will get married. If there's a honeymoon period, settling down period, within 2 to 3 years you will have a child. So already, why to do something now? Let's settle down and do something. So many patterns like this I see around, and we do not create campaigns around it.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So I have younger children. We're late age parents, so I get to see almost 2 generations. But it's interesting because I see even my girls say boy and girl. So that differentiation. The boys in the class were naughty today. So, and they're going to a very, what we would call progressive school. And then I don't see so much change in the next generation of women, which to me startles me because I would have said, okay, hum to ek generation aage the. This next generation would be more forward. But I personally have not seen it. So that's why I sometimes wonder what happened. And I'm glad that what I'm hearing from you, that at least we're seeing it now in the next generation of 30 years.
I mean, it's also to do with, so one is when they look backwards. one is when they look forward. So when they're joining the workforce, they're also looking for role models.
Yes.
They might be joining at a large numbers at the entry level. पर वो क्या देख रहे हैं? वो देख रहे हैं कि ऊपर तो नहीं है हमारा representation. Is that my future? उन्हें वो भी नजर आ रहा है, right? Because the dropout happens at a large, level, at the mid level, at a very high rate. The dropout happens at a very high rate at the mid level. तो वो क्यों हो रहा है? क्योंकि that's when life happens. Those are the childbearing years. और वो आपको कितने ही आप उत्साह के साथ क्यों ना ज्वाइन करो वर्कफोर्स को, अगर आपको नजर आ रहा है कि ऊपर कोई है ही नहीं मेरे जैसे, तो that makes you question, right? And it doesn't give you that conviction that no, I can also get there.
But Swati,
There should be
how
no
did
hurdles
you
in my
do it?
path.
How did you do it? What is your, because you also went through the same.
Yeah,
Same set of challenges.
Yeah.
You got kids.
yeah,
You had a family. Sab kuch tha.
yeah,
So how did you mentally steer yourself?
yeah. Part of it is, I think, I would say, coming from a family where we were really not differentiated between the girls and the boy. My brother, and I think he was a persecuted one, to be very honest. My sister and I, we had the higher, we were the higher order in the social hierarchy echelon within our family amongst the children. But so I think that, so as an example, when I started my career with Schlumberger, which is an oil exploration services company, and I had to work on oil rigs in the middle of nowhere where there are no women, my father never asked me why this, never. All he said is, okay, he just wanted to know, okay, oh, you got a job? Great, congratulations. So what next? Where are you headed to? Where's your first posting? So happy for you. No questions asked, right? So I never questioned myself. But that said, there is a cultural conditioning, right? And you carry that by seeing outside in the society what happens. And in my case, I'm also a very high energy person. So as life happened and more responsibilities started getting added to my plate, I just took them as, bring them on.
Mhm.
I will take care of it, right? And you start taking care of everything that gets added. Okay, add some more, I'll take care of this too. Okay, add some more, I'll take care of this too. Children, okay, I'll bring them up. Household, we bought a 4-bedroom house in US just when I'm starting McKinsey with a newborn in my hand, when my husband is already at McKinsey and 5 days a week traveling. That's not a very easy scenario, right? But what are you thinking? At least what am I thinking? I was thinking,
How do you
I
manage?
guess I just have to, it's not the why, it's the how do I manage? I never questioned the why.
It's the how.
It's the how. Okay, how do I, because I'm a problem solver fundamentally, I think. I think that's been consistent in my career and in my personal life as well. Okay, how do I solve this problem? It's like there's a crisis. I'm not a brooder. I think I'm good at crisis management because I get into action mode that, okay, there's a crisis, fine. How do we get around it now? How do we manage through it? And I think in some ways for women, life is a constant crisis mode, right?
Yeah.
You're
But
starting with
that's a good-
McKinsey.
yeah.
I mean, I started McKinsey right after.
You were pregnant
in business school. My son came on the day of my graduation. I was actually in labor
Really?
pains. I did my graduation in labor pains. That's a story for another day. And so, I took the degree. Within 2 hours, he was out. So, and
She was the first person to graduate.
that's true. That's true. So Chicago did break their 100-year-old tradition where PhDs always go first and get their degree, and then the masters go later. My last name is Vasudevan, so I was like 200 and something in the list, and which means my name was going to get called 2 hours later, and I was in 3rd stage labor already, like in
Oh my.
labor pains, and the provost is standing there and thinking that, oh my goodness, this lady will not last. So she said, I'm changing the order. You're going first. You're getting your degree and you're heading straight to the hospital, my dear. So anyway, so I started McKinsey with a newborn in my hand.
Both you and your husband.
And my
both?
husband was already at McKinsey.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he was traveling 5 days a week. We moved to Houston, new city from Chicago. And we bought a 4-bedroom house. And this is all in the US where you don't have any family support. So I have a household to manage, a newborn baby to manage,
And a traveling job.
and a traveling job. And my husband not being around because of his traveling career, and no family support, and my own McKinsey career. So it was not easy, but again, you're thinking, okay, I'm just in that action mode. I'm in the problem solving mode, and everything has to be managed. How do I manage? So you're at your professional best self, even in your personal life, right? Using all your 80-20 prioritization, all the things that you learn on how to manage a business. I think I used it in my personal life to just manage everything.
But Swati, when you, both of you, again, started off almost at the same level, I would say, maybe a couple of years apart, and your career was also stellar. But yes, you did make these choices. Ki, chalo, I'll take projects. Did you find that your career growth was slower, or no, you were able to manage?
I mean, so my
Because
career.
this is a big question.
Yeah, and it'll be hard for me to look back and say, have I been successful or not? And what are the yardsticks of success in any case, right?
Yeah.
It's hard. So it's hard to answer that question. But what I do know is my career has meandered a lot.
You've gone
right?
from oil rigs
to management consulting, to food distribution and marketing, to consumer products, to retail, to manufacturing, to energy management, to water and sanitation, to development space, education, public health, agriculture development, to financial inclusion, gender, infectious diseases and public health, etc. And of course, education now. So that is meandering. Was that would you see that as a lack of success? I would see that as success, because it's, I see that as
it's
being able to
versatile.
reinvent myself.
Yeah.
But did it happen by design? I would say no. I'll be very honest. It didn't happen by design. It happened because, I was doing well in every career I took, right? Luckily, fortunately, I had, my workplace, I was able to have a lot of achievements and a lot of recognition as well, good growth. But then I would have to leave it to support my husband's career, for example, in this case, right? A lot of women do that and move and give up this really flourishing job, which is not easy. So in some ways, you're making sacrifice. But then
ways you are doing sacrifices, not some ways.
You are making sacrifices, but I think in my case, I was able to convince myself very happily, and I made those choices happily, because I said, it's okay, I'm making that choice to leave because I want to support my husband, who I love, and I'm not too worried about my career, because I have confidence that I will find a way.
A very strong word.
I will find a way to get a good ROI on the sacrifice. I'm always thinking in the form of ROI, right? Of my effort, of my sacrifice. And so I said, okay, it'll be easy enough for me to get to the same kind of a field and same kind of a job in the new city. That's easy. But no, I've left a very good job. That's a sacrifice. I'm going to use that to my advantage by doing something which otherwise I would have never done, and learn something totally new in a different sector. So I went after that. So I think in my case, when you're given lemons, you make lemonade. I think I kind of did that in some ways.
Your career has flourished. So.
Knock on wood. I mean, touch wood. Yeah.
Swati, while you were moving all these jobs now, did you ever find like any big things that said, okay, you know what, this is what is really stopping me as a woman from growing, or other women from growing? Because you work now in so many industries.
Yeah.
So you have a perspective not only in consumer tech, to ed tech, to oil rigs.
Yeah.
Did you see this kind of like low कहते हैं, maybe it's not outward, but there are some unspoken things that are really.
I think workplace में तो होता है, right? Because थोड़ा सा mindset का problem workplace में तो है ही. There is, people do make those assumptions. India में तो बहुत है. US में इतना नहीं है. तो US में I never felt कि my growth was impacted. I was really loved in every company I worked for. I have loved every company I've ever worked for. And I'm still in touch with all of a lot of the people that I worked with, even 25 years ago. US में growth का मुझे बिल्कुल नहीं लगा कि it got impacted, right? In spite of all these family decisions and family constraints and that I had to navigate. India में बहुत होता है, because people make that assumption. कोई important position अगर के लिए आप candidate सोच रहे हो कि किसको promote करना है इस position में, it's very natural for people higher ups to think कि woman को choose करें, no matter how capable she is, या man को choose करें, वो पूरा time दे पाएगी. It's not that they think she's lazy. I don't think that is an issue. They worry that ये इसका जो पूरा time है वो divided है. Her mind space is divided between the work and family. It's an assumption people make. And they worry, they want it all. They want full dedication for their workspace, which they believe,
women
correctly or incorrectly, कि men will be able to give dedicatedly, women will not be able to. So again, what holds them back at the workplace is what holds them back at home, or the other way around. What holds them back at home ends up having repercussions on holding them back at workplace also. Because they don't have that support system at home, and they truly are dividing their time and mind share and mind space, it creates perceptions in the workplace at a macro level. So these perceptions are about women. I'm not about a particular woman. She may have all the support, but even then, because the perception is out there, she may be passed over for a particular position for promotions.
But that's actual situation also where women are falling off the ladder because of family commitments, other issues. So the other woman who could climb the ladder is getting the brunt of it.
Yeah.
So it's a very you do not know from where the shift will happen. First this will come or that will come. We do not know. We are just trying our
You remember the
best.
story about Indra Nui, right? When the day she got promoted, she comes home, she parks a car in the garage, and the first thing her mother says, when she excited to come and tell her that I got selected as a CEO, right, in the boardroom, the first thing the mother says is, वो सब बाद में, पहले milk लेके आओ बाजार
अपना
से,
crown gate के बाहर रखो.
And बाजार से पहले, where milk is over in the house. Son-in-law घर पे बैठा है, right? So I think it's also to do with the patriarchy. And I know we haven't talked about that, but there is a strong component of patriarchy. And जब तक वो नहीं खत्म होगी, generation भी बीत जाए, I don't think women का status change होने वाला है, right? So we talked about home status. We talked about cultural assumptions. Let me talk about a couple other things. When we talk about patriarchy, this works to women's disadvantage all the way from the time she's growing up, because her own family also. Because so far we've talked about the second family she goes into, but let's talk about her own family. Even her own family, because of the patriarchy in the system, undervalues her. No matter how capable she might be, there is always this thing about she is a liability, or at least in the poor household, right? She's always a liability, or she may be princess in the outset, but कहीं अंदर तो उनके अंदर फिर भी undervalue ही होती है. वो कहेंगे नहीं.
No, princess in a manner that you should look good, you should be thin, you should be doing by the model which a girl should be.
That plus
that is your definition.
Plus आपको आगे करना क्या है? भाई इसकी शादी किसी से हो जाए बहुत बड़ी बात है.
अरे that's still parents' number one goal.
And उसमें भी the son-in-law, the guy who's agreed to marry your daughter, बहुत बड़ा favor कर रहा है आपके ऊपर. क्यों वो favor क्यों आपको? Why are you thinking of it in terms of favor? Because you're thinking कि इसकी you are undervaluing your daughter. कि कोई इससे शादी कर रहा है बहुत बड़ी बात है.
So you know,
not the other way around. यार does he deserve my daughter or not? Nobody's asking that question. People are asking the question, does she deserve him? And the guy's family is also asking the question, is she good enough for him, my son? And nobody ever asked the question.
And we are taking in your
her?
daughter and taking care of her expenses, and we are kind of
So patriarchy का बड़ा problem है, I think, थोड़ा सा, right? So एक तो वो हो जाता है. दूसरा workplace में तो issues हैं. तीसरा front हो गया policies. Government की policies क्या हैं country में, laws क्या हैं, उसका बहुत बड़ा impact है to bring about this generational change in our cultural thinking and social setup. I'll give you a small example. Property, and woman की value किस चीज से आएगी? Value at the end of the day is always in the form of monetary. Monetary. जब तक monetary way में आप उसको value नहीं करोगे, इसकी value intangible है. जब तक आप work उसका woman का home front पे जो काम कर रही है वो, the caregiving that she's giving and the nurturing that she's doing, जब तक उसकी monetary value नहीं consider की जाएगी, तब तक woman की value नहीं होगी country में. आप कुछ भी कर लीजिए.
You've been a leader in so many. Can a woman be liked? Because this desire to be liked, is it still there and be an effective leader? Your question, Hardamata. And I'm going to also ask you another one, because this good girl syndrome. Because we are signing off our wealth because we want to be a good girl. Because it's, it's just instilled into our brains at a very early age that good girl, you have to be a good girl. You don't fight with your brother.
You don't do this, you don't do that, you have to be a good girl. And women, I'm going to use another word in addition to good, sacrifice.
Yes.
It is, I hate that word, and it should be removed from the dictionary when it comes to women, because it is so inextricably attached to a woman coming across as good. You're a good wife, or you're a good mother, or you're a good daughter if you're sacrificial.
or you are
Without that, you're not good.
nahi tum samajhdar ho. Women are told very often that you are the sensible one. You take care of, you look at the larger
Yeah.
picture.
In other words, you compromise, you sacrifice. So that compromising and sacrificing is so expected that your uh, performance as a daughter, wife, mother, sister is seen based on whether you're sacrificial or not. The man's status as a husband or a father is never measured based on the sacrifices he's making.
Very common pattern, this we have heard from many women, that when, small example, when they are having food on the table, it's always somebody else's, husband's choice, children's choice, somebody else's choice, but you never get food. It's very often, very common. So that small thing they notice later, that I never cooked food or got something made for what I like. Where does it come from? Being the last one.
It's the sacrificial. I think it's instilled so, strongly in us that we grow up sacrificial.
Yeah.
We grow up expecting to sacrifice, and hence we grow up wanting to sacrifice also, because we feel good about ourselves that, oh, I'm a good girl, I'm a good mother because I sacrificed. Which is such a dangerous path to go down under, because then women go through life, and I know
Wanting
so
to be
many
a good
women
girl.
in their 60s and 70s who are looking back and saying, what the hell?
Yeah.
What did I just do? I sacrificed my life. What did I get for it? Nothing.
No, but I want you to still answer the question on likability and leadership, because this one is still also a tough one.
It's a tough
Because
one.
we want to be liked also.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And luckily, the definition of leadership is changing from what I'm seeing in the corporate world. The likability is becoming an important piece of leadership for both women and men, right? And when I say likability, the definition, the drivers of likability are now becoming more sane, such as you need to be more compassionate, you need to be more inclusive as a leader, you need to be more valuing diversity of thought. So that's inclusiveness, I guess. The EQ versus IQ. You need to have some EQ. You need to be a good listener. You need to be, I think all those good, what we would consider as good habits of a leader are now finally being recognized as a part of leadership. So likability is now becoming an ingredient in leadership in the right way.
Lately, I've been seeing, because of course, maybe I'm obsessed with the tech world, but you're seeing this arrogance factor come in a big way. Maybe because it's a male-dominated world, pretty much in tech, especially in the leadership. And you're also in the tech world. So I'm going to come back to you. How do you see that? Because there's a lot of ego at play right now in tech.
Yeah, it is. But people forget that tech has two parts to it. There is the creation of tech, production of tech, and then there is this implementation of tech, usage of tech. Just because you create a phenomenal tech product or tool or an offering, it is not going to get you anything. Build it and they will come doesn't happen, right? You have to get it adopted by the consumer, by the customer. Therein lies the art and the science. And I think there are women, probably not more women, I don't know, I've not seen the stats, but women are doing really well in the second side, if not in the first part, because of the tech imbalance, the gender imbalance in the tech world. And the production side, yes, unfortunately, there is that imbalance. But on the other side, second side, I see more women doing better work than men. Because again, the skill sets you need are the kind of skill sets you need in
developing
the multidisciplinary sectors of consumer space, consumer durable products, consumer fast-moving products, marketing as a function, finance, psychology, anthropology, sociology. You need to have an understanding of all these things to really understand the customer psyche and how to get something adopted by the customer. And there are enough women in those fields that are doing really well. So luckily, I have a little different perspective on this. To me, tech, we shouldn't see just from the production lens. We should see it in the full holistic lens. And I think there is equal opportunity there. And women are doing just as well. And there are enough women leaders in the adoption of tech.
Women are not choosing to marry and have kids because of they feel in their career growth Or I was talking to some other people, and they said that have we created the right role model for women, for younger girls to get married, and are we the right example of happy marriage or being? So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that women are choosing to forego this beautiful privilege that every human being has of being in an institution with another man, having a partner, having a companion. It doesn't have to be marriage, it could be outside of marriage, whatever it takes. To me, you need to have a companion that you live, a partner that you live happily with in your life, and do a lot of things together. To me, that's what's important. So I wouldn't use marriage as a yardstick for
Companionship.
for determining happiness, and determining whether the woman is actually using that privilege of that is available to human beings. So that's that. That said, it is still unfortunate that women are choosing to not even have companionship or not get into marriage, and maybe they're choosing companionship over marriage. That's possible. If that's the case,
It's okay.
I don't think we need to worry about anything, frankly. Society will obviously have to come around to it, because if there are children in a institution which does not have, or if there are children in a partnership without marriage, how does the system handle that? Whose name do they take? How do the forms get filled out? Which in India are still, who's your father?
Father.
Son
Wife
of, a daughter of, wife of,
daughter
right?
of.
It's all, everything is based on
Something
the
of.
based on the father's
Yes.
name and father's last name. So I think those laws will have to change, those rules will have to change to adapt to this system. So to me, there's no problem with the system of women choosing to not marry, as long as the systems adapt to it, but which will take time.
Because they find marriage as a barrier to their financial independence
And
or
guess
their
why?
career growth.
And guess why, right? Because the difference between, let's take an example of a man and woman living together, pretty happily together, and then they decide to get married. What's the difference between the two? The difference is when, think of, you're in the middle of a circle, there's a circle, and there are all these family members standing outside the circle, at the periphery. While you're still in a live-in relationship, the family, extended family is still at the periphery. They will not step into that circle of yours, right? Which is I call it the circle of accountability. So, because everybody's still valuing you as an individual, that, oh, she is not committed yet. She could walk away at any time. So let's treat her well. We have an incentive to behave. Everybody behaves. The man behaves, the extended family behaves, everybody behaves. The moment she commits, and getting into a marriage means commitment, then all the extended family steps right into that circle of accountability with their placard that they're holding that has a list of all the responsibilities that they're going to put on her, expectations that they have from her of being, right? And unfortunately, immediately she's placed in the social hierarchy at the lowest rung of the ladder. In the social setup of that circle of family, with the extended family, she's the lowest, right? She's a wife of, or the daughter-in-law of, and the sister-in-law of somebody. And everyone has expectations. And so everybody holds her accountable. So imagine the amount of burden she's carrying single-handedly. And unfortunately, in the Indian setup, the man plays no role in fostering that partnership to be a positive one, or to helping her establish a good relationship with the others, or to help her with her image building with the rest of the family. He plays no role. In fact, sometimes he plays a negative role, right? He adds to the problems. Again, because they're not brought up with this EQ, with this knowledge, with this awareness, and this understanding of this happens when the woman gets married. I don't think men even realize that this happens to the woman. Woman's life changes completely when there's marriage. Man's life doesn't change. If it does, it's only in the positive side, because guess what? He acquires another family that hero worships him.
Yeah.
Patriarchy means the family is going to hero worship the son-in-law just because he is being kind enough to marry their daughter, because the daughter is undervalued. We go back to that whole patriarchy thing, right? So that's the reason why women are not marrying, because marriage brings baggage of responsibilities and entire. If a marriage is a company, you have 100 bosses, right? And you are the lowest, you are the junior most associate who has to take work from everybody in the form of expectation that you have to do
and prove.
constantly establishing credibility with everybody and with no perks, no remuneration, right? It's a worst of all worlds. So marriage is a pretty bad institution, the way we've created it.
And when you have become a mother, then your stakes are deeper because
Because you're more committed.
No, but taking that further, what Meeta said, the motherhood, but that's also one of the reasons that women are not preferring to have children, or if max one child, because they're saying, look, it's such a big, you need to take a 2-year gap or a 3-year gap.
Yeah.
So women are saying, I'll maybe maximum have 1 kid.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that? Because we are.
Absolutely. In the urban areas, women are choosing to have 1 kid or no kids. In the rural areas also, finally, which is a good thing. The fertility rate used to be much higher in the country, in the rural areas. Women would have 4 kids, 5 kids. But now, family planning is coming into picture. And with Gates Foundation, we worked, pretty deeply on the family planning side. A lot of interventions in the country, and there's good work happening. And women are able to utilize those benefits and are having fewer children. Why? Because they want to have fewer children. They just didn't have the means to be able to have fewer children, to have that voice, to be able to make those decisions. So there, I think it's a positive trend. In the urban areas, it's a bit of a negative trend. So, and unfortunately, if things go the same way, urban areas are as I said,
like Japan,
it's a few years ahead of what's happening in the rural areas. So if the rural areas go the same route as the urban areas, another couple of decades, we will be in the similar situation as Japan or China. Where people are not having kids, and you have a lopsided demographic system.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Loved the conversation and loved hearing your insights from what you're hearing from the other women also, because there are these patterns that we are picking up which are common, and they've been there for so many years, and it makes us frustrated that, okay, why aren't things changing? We're hearing the same things from every woman. We're hearing the same things over time. Why aren't the things changing? My answer is things are changing. We just don't see it because the change is so small and at such a slow pace. The secular trends are very, very slow, but they're there and they're positive. So that's...
And we can't give up not doing anything because we think change is not happening. Because if all of us start bringing small changes, we do not know what the impact would be and how soon it can be.
So true. And each one of us is a role model in our own right? To everybody and anybody around us, whether it's our children, whether it's our siblings, whether it's our parents, whether it's our in-laws, whether it's our friends. I think we are role models, whether it's our peers, right? Each person is a role model, and so are we. We women are role models too.
Absolutely. So well said. So thank you for being with us, Swati.
Thank you, Meeta.
We know will go a long, long way. And
we
will see some impact, some changes here.
We certainly will. Enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.